की जय, अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय, नामाचार्य श्री हरिदास ठाकुर की जय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद, श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री श्री राधा कृष्ण गोप गोपी गो श्याम कुंड राधा कुंड गिरि गोवर्धन की जय। श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vikas Swaminiti Namane. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswate Deve गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 15, Text 35. teṣām itīritam ubhau avadhārya ghoram tam brahma-daṇḍam anivāraṇam astra-pūgaiḥ sadyaḥ harer anucarau bibhyatas tat-pāda-grahau apatatām ati-kātareṇa. Oh God, this chant. Get up. Smoky chant. I eat chants.
Chants is free.
Chants is free. teṣām īritam ubhāv ghoram.
teṣām īritam
teṣām īritam ubhāv ghoram.
teṣām īritam
tam brahma-daṇḍam anivāraṇam astra-pūgaiḥ. tam brahma-daṇḍam anivāraṇam astra-pūgaiḥ. sadyo harer anucarāv bibhyatas. sadyo harer anucarāv bibhyatas. pāda-grahāv vapatataām ati-kātareṇa. pāda-grahāv vapatataām ati-kātareṇa. teṣām īritam ubhāv avadhārya ghoram. tam brahma-daṇḍam anivāraṇam astra-pūgaiḥ. sadyo harer anucarāv bibhyatas. pāda-grahāv vapatataām ati-kātareṇa. teṣām īritam ubhāv avadhārya ghoram. tam brahma-daṇḍam anivāraṇam astra-pūgaiḥ. sadyo harerannucarāvu bibhyatas
sadyo harerannucarāv
pāda-grahāv vapatataām ati-kātareṇa teṣām itīritam ubhāv avadhārya ghoraṁ tam brahma-daṇḍam anivāraṇam astra-pūgaiḥ sadyo harerannucarāvu bibhyatas pāda-grahāv vapatataām ati-kātareṇa
teṣām ubhāv avadhārya ghoraṁ
teṣām itīritam avadhārya ghoraṁ
tam brahma-daṇḍam anivāraṇam astra-pūgaiḥ sadyo harerannucarāvu pāda-grahāv vapatataām ati-kātareṇa teṣām itīritam ubhāv avadhārya ghoraṁ tam brahma-daṇḍam anivāraṇam astra-pūgaiḥ sadyo harerannucarāvu bibhyatas pāda-grahāv vapatataām ati-kātareṇa
teṣām itīritam ubhāv avadhārya ghoraṁ
teṣām itīritam ubhāv avadhārya ghoraṁ
brahma-daṇḍam anivāraṇam astra-pūgaiḥ
tam brahma-daṇḍam anivāraṇam astra-pūgaiḥ
sadyo harerannucarāvu bibhyatas
sadyo harerannucarāvu bibhyatas
pāda-grahāv vapatataām ati-kātareṇa
pāda-grahāv vapatataām ati-kātareṇa
teṣām itīritam ubhāv avadhārya ghoraṁ
teṣām itīritam ubhāv avadhārya ghoraṁ
tam brahma-daṇḍam anivāraṇam astra-pūgaiḥ
tam brahma-daṇḍam anivāraṇam astra-pūgaiḥ
sadyo harerannucarāvu bibhyatas
sadyo harerannucarāvu bibhyatas
pāda-grahāv vapatataām atikātareṇa
pāda-grahāv vapatataām atikātareṇa
teṣām itīritam ubhāv avadhārya ghoraṁ tam brahma-daṇḍam anivāraṇam astra-pūgaiḥ sadyo harerannucarāvu bibhyatas pāda-grahāv vapatataām ati-kātareṇa teṣām itīritam ubhāv avadhārya ghoraṁ tam brahma-daṇḍam anivāraṇam astra-pūgaiḥ
sadyo harerannucarāvu bibhyatas
sadyo harerannucarāvu bibhyatas
pāda-grahāv vapatataām atikātareṇa
pāda-grahāv vapatataām ati-kātareṇa
teṣām itīritam ubhāvad teṣām itīritam ubhāv avadhārya ghoraṁ
teṣām itīritam ubhau avadhārya ghoram
tam brahma-daṇḍam anivāraṇam astra-pūgaiḥ
tam brahma-daṇḍam anivāraṇam astra-pūgaiḥ
sadyo harer anucarāv bibhyatas
sadyo harer anucarau bibhyatas
pāda-grahāv vapatataām ati-kātareṇa
pāda-grahāv avadhārya ati-kātareṇa. Word to word translations. Teṣām of the four Kumāras. Thus, īritam, uttered, ubhau, both doorkeepers, avadhārya, understanding, ghoram, terrible, tam, that, brahma-daṇḍam, curse of a brahmana, anivāraṇam, not able to be counteracted, astra-pūgaiḥ, by any kind of weapon, sadyaḥ, at once, harer, of the Supreme Lord, anucarau, devotees, guru, very much, bibhyatas, became fearful, tat-pāda-grahau, grasping their feet, apatatām, fell down, ati-kātareṇa, in great anxiety. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. When the doormen of Vaikuntha Loka, who were certainly devotees of the Lord, found that they were going to be cursed by the brahmanas, they at once became very much afraid and fell down at the feet of the brahmanas in great anxiety. For a brahmana's curse cannot be counteracted by any kind of weapon. Purport. Although by chance the doormen committed a mistake by checking the brahmanas from entering the gate of Vaikuntha, they were at once aware of the gravity of the curse. There are many kinds of offenses, but the greatest offense is to offend a devotee of the Lord. Because the doormen were also devotees of the Lord, they were able to understand their mistake and were terrified when the four Kumāras were ready to curse them. Om ajnānatimirandasya jnānāñjana shalakaya chakshurunmīlitam yena tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam yena bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Pada-kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Akanta Radha Akanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Devacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hey Guru Jnanadata, no, Hey Guru Jnana Bandho, I forgot the verse now. Swananda Data Karunaika Sindho Vrindavana Asina Hitavatara Prasida Radhaya Pranaya Prachara. Shri Chaitanya Prabhu Mande Balopi Yattad Anugraha Tare Nana Matagraha Vyaptam Siddhanta Sagaram. teṣām itīritam ubhāv avadhārya ghoram tam brahma-daṇḍam anivāraṇam astra-pūgaiḥ sadyo harer anucarāv bibhyatas pada-grahāv apatatām ati-kātareṇa. When the doormen of Vaikuntha Loka, who were certainly devotees of the Lord, found out that they were going to be cursed by the brahmanas, they at once became very much afraid and fell down at the feet of the brahmanas in great anxiety, for a brahmana's curse cannot be counteracted by any kind of weapon. So this verse presents a very dramatic scene. The verse itself is very beautiful. That teṣām itīritam ubhāv avadhārya ghoram. Itīritam, at that moment when the curse was uttered, so the terrible curse has been pronounced. It's coming like a great thunder from the sky. The four brahmanas have thundered this curse, Sanat Kumāras, upon the doormen. And And avadhārya ghoram, suddenly it dawns upon them. This is a very terrible curse. This is such a great calamity. And one can feel that. Generally, it's not a very nice feeling. When suddenly you realize something has gone wrong, terribly wrong. And you get that feeling where it just sinks, you get this feeling, it sinks right to the bottom. It feels like it will drop out of your stomach, but there's no place to drop out, and sitting right there in the bottom of your, below your stomach, like wherever that is. It's just like all the way in the bottom is a heavy feeling, and you're filled with anxiety. So avadhārya ghoram, they have understood that. And what have they understood? Tam brahma-daṇḍam anivāraṇam astra-pūgaiḥ. Huh? Put it here. No, I'm going to move my head. Yes. So, tam brahma-daṇḍam, the echo is there. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Should be okay. So, tam brahma-daṇḍam anivāraṇam astra-pūgaiḥ. That this is a curse that cannot be counteracted by any weapons. So they realize this cannot be counteracted in any means that they have. Like why these weapons? Because they're holding so many weapons. They have they're doormen. They're like they look like Vishnu. So what do they have? They have Shankha, Chakra, Gada. Right? So they have these weapons. They have a mace, they have the conch, they have the discus, but they cannot counteract with any of these weapons. Anivāraṇam astra-pūgaiḥ. So then, very interesting that the verse itself states sadyo harer anucarāv, that these are sadyaḥ. They are at that moment itself hareḥ anucarāv. Those who follow Lord Hari. Anucarāv, anucarāna means those who follow, means who follows? Those who are devotees. So devotees follow. So those who follow Lord Hari, they are called Vaishnavas. Those who follow Vishnu are called Vaishnavas. So what did these Vaishnavas? At that moment that they realized the terrible nature of the curse, what did they do? Bibhyatas tat. They became fearful. Bibhyatah. Bibhyatah is it's similar to bhaya, bibhyatah. So, bibhyatas, they become fearful. And then what did they do? So, they became fearful. They understood the great anxiety. What is the great anxiety? That they cannot counteract this problem. They became very fearful. What do? Pāda-grahāv, apatatām, ati-kātareṇa. In great anxiety, apatatām, they fell down. What did they do? Pāda-grahāv, they went and grasped the feet of the Kumāras. They didn't waste a single moment. Sadyo, at once, immediately. There is word also. Sadyaḥ punantyupasprishta swardhunyāpo seveya. What is that verse? How does it begin? No. No. Sadyaḥ punantyupasprishta swardhunyāpo seveya. It's in second canto. Sorry, first canto. First canto, yeah, but Yennāma vibhasho grinam tata sadyo vimuchyeta yed bibheti swayam. That's another verse. But then there's sadyaḥ punantyupasprishta. What is the verse? That's not the verse. Close. It starts with that. Something like that. But yasvānu bhāvam akila shruti. No. Sāramekam adhyāta dvītmo adit. That's verse on Shukadev Goswami, what you are quoting. This verse states that the association of devotees, sadyaḥ punantyupasprishta, swardhunyāpo seveya, it is greater than taking bath in the Ganga. So, anyways, But the words tata sadyo vimuchyate yad bibheti swayam vyam. Let's go to that verse because I am talking about sadyaḥ. So, what is that? Yannama vibhasho grinan. How does that know? Apanna samshritim ghoram yannama vibhasho grinan. Apanna samshritim ghoram. When that this great terrible material existence, samshritim ghoram yannama vibhasho grinan, one who takes the holy name of the Supreme Lord, yannama vibhasho grinan, tata sadyo vimuchyeta, at once he becomes free of the fear. Yed bibheti swayam bhayam. See that word bibheti, bibhyataha, bibheti is there in that verse also. That immediately he becomes free from the fear that even fear personified is afraid of. It's a beautiful verse in the first canto also. And tat-pāda sutta munayah prasamayanaha sadyaḥ punantyupasprishta swardunya aponu sevaya. So one serves lotus feet of devotees. So great. So sadyaḥ, immediately they purify. So here, what do the devotees do? At once, they didn't delay, they didn't waste time. Immediately what do? They grasp the feet. They grasp the feet, and in order to grasp the feet, what do they have to do? They have to fall down. You have to fall down. Grasping the feet is not bowing down. You literally have to fall. And so you can see this, how quickly they have acted. And in the next verse, you will see they admit their mistake. They immediately admit their mistake. They say only one verse. In this whole thing, you will see the Kumāras, they speak something, then they curse the doormen. The doormen say one verse, exactly one verse. Then Vishnu appears, Narayana appears, there is a description of Narayana, then Narayana speaks. He speaks quite a bit. Then the Sanat Kumāras glorify Sriman Narayana. But the doormen, they spoke only one verse. And what do they say? They don't waste time glorifying nobody. All they do, they just literally say, please let us not forget the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Immediately that's their concern, that they don't want to forget Him. So, anyways, this is a very interesting pastime, and if devotees are willing to be attentive, there is nice things that we can churn here. I'm going to go through a couple of verses, front, back, next chapter also. It's very nice. So, here, Srila Prabhupada in this purport is speaking about the great danger of Vaishnava aparadha. And this is a problem here because you have two sets of Vaishnavas. You have the Sanat Kumāras and you have the doormen of Vaikuntha. And the Sanat, and what's really amazing, and I'll explain this later, I'll probably come back to this point again, is that in this pastime, who accepts fault? Doorman. Anybody else accepts fault? Vishnu accepts fault. Then the Kumāras also accept fault. Isn't it really amazing? Huh? All three personalities involved, they all say they are at fault. You look at this pastime, everybody involved in the pastime, which is the doorman, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Himself, and the Sanat Kumāras, they all admit their fault. If you go to chapter 16 of the same canto, and text 25, the Kumāras say that. They say, O Lord, whatever punishment you wish to award to these two innocent persons, or also to us, we shall accept without duplicity. We understand that we have cursed two faultless persons. They understand that they have cursed two faultless persons. So the Kumāras also admit their mistake here. And looking more at this pastime, if we go to chapter 15, text 31. Okay, so the Kumāras are entering. They are entering, and the doormen, Jay and Vijay, are there, and they are going to stop them. When the Kumāras, although by far the fittest persons, it's a bit loud, by far the fittest persons were thus forbidden entrance by the two chief doorkeepers of Sri Hari, while Other divinities looked on. Their eyes suddenly turned red because of anger due to their great eagerness to see their most beloved master, Sri Hari, the personality of Godhead. What's interesting in this verse is that other divinities are looking on, which means the other residents of Vaikuntha who are flying around in the airplane and this and that, they're seeing this happening. And they are looking on and they're seeing what's going on here. 4 little children have entered and they've passed the first 6 gates. When we go to Tirupati, you will see all the around. They have like I don't know what to call, like an arch, and so they have arches around that go around the prakaram. Prakaram is the 4 streets surrounding a temple, and there you will see all the names of all the different doorkeepers. So there. It's not a Jai Vijay. Jai and Vijay are famous because they are the doorkeepers of the last door. You enter them, you get to see Vishnu. So they're the last ones. But there's 6 others in front of them and they all have different names. They all do the same service. So they pass through all of them and Jai and Vijay are stopping. And here, other divinities are looking on. So what happens? Jai and Vijay have stopped these Kumāras, and the Kumāras, they are humiliated in front of other devotees also. It's a public scene. It's not like some private thing that happened just between the 4 Kumāras and 2 people. There's a bunch of other people watching what's going on. So the humiliation happens in front of others. And who are the Sanat Kumāras? They are the mind-born sons of Brahma. They are the top, among the top personalities in the material world. So they are very senior people. At the same time, who's senior? Jai and Vijay are senior. They weren't born. Sanat Kumāras appeared from Brahma, but Jai and Vijay have just been existing there. So the truth is Jai and Vijay are eternal. But in another sense, the Kumāras are senior because they are Brahmanas, and Brahmanas always have to be given respect. Any Brahmana has to be given respect. Young or old has to be given respect. So the Kumāras have. So it's a very interesting scene here. And in text 29, Srila Prabhupada, so the verse says, the great sages headed by Sanaka had open doors everywhere. They had no ideas of ours and theirs. With open minds they entered the 7th door as they had out of their own will, just as they had passed through the 6 other doors which were made of gold and diamonds. So Prabhupada writes that the great sages, although very old in years, maintain themselves eternally as small children. Why did they do that? To avoid the sex desire. So they were just like little children and they have no idea. Prabhupada says, as little children enter places without any idea of what it is to trespass. They have no conception of what it is to trespass. Children go everywhere. They go anywhere and everywhere. They have no conception of that. That is a child's nature. A child can enter any place and no one checks him. Indeed, a child is generally welcome in his attempts to go to places. But if it so happens that a child is checked from entering a door, he naturally becomes sorry and angry. That you can see. Try to stop a child from doing something it wants to do, and you'll see its reaction. It will get angry. So Prabhupada says that an ordinary child would cry, but because these were not ordinary children, they immediately made preparations to punish the doorman, for the doorman had committed a great offense. So they had this childlike mentality, and now that was good for avoiding sex. But what also happened is, because of that childlike mentality, they became angry like this. Just like children become angry when they become prevented from going to a place. So it's an interesting pastime that from this we can learn that sometimes we may accept a certain material mentality. We may want to maintain a certain disposition, but we have to understand that ultimately we shouldn't become we shouldn't identify ourselves with that particular disposition, because every disposition has its drawbacks. And when you overly identify with that disposition, what happens is, then when the drawback kicks in, you are embarrassed. As the Kumāras later felt embarrassed, as we just saw in the verse. They were embarrassed. They cursed two faultless people. And here is Vishnu himself coming and offering obeisances to them, saying it's all my fault. The very person who they wanted to go and see, who they wanted to serve by having his darshan, because having darshan of the Supreme Lord is also service to the Supreme Lord, that very person has come and admitted some fault to them. It's a very embarrassing situation. It's a very, it's like, and this happens. Sometimes, disciples have fights with each other and they go to Guru Maharaj. And then Guru Maharaj says, it's all my fault. I'm not training my disciples properly. I'm not instructing. How would you feel? It's like the whole thing becomes like, it becomes a very embarrassing situation. And that's exactly what has happened. It's precisely what has happened. Is that both servants of Vishnu have realized that they have acted in a way that Vishnu himself has to come and take accountability for the whole situation. And therefore, it's sort of like, it's kind of all round sort of, at least the personal devotees, their personal feelings, is that it's regrettable. Now, so therefore, we have to understand, sometimes we may take this disposition, okay, I want to be very grave. So I'm going to be very grave. But then, graveness also has its side effect where you just also become hard-hearted a little bit. You don't care about anything, you don't care about anyone, and you just go around walking around like a robo. And so then there's a problem. But then sometimes you're too childlike, always joking, then your whole life becomes a joke. So then you can't just keep joking all the time. I want to be a brahmana, but then if you're too much attached to the whole conception of being a brahmana, then you also become mundane in that sense. So this can happen. Brahmachari, or grahastha, then you become too, it helps. Just like in the case of the Sanat Kumāras, it helps them to maintain that child, but not that, but then you see the flip side of it, that therefore, the whole goal of Krishna consciousness is to transcend sarvopadir vinirmuktan tat-paratven nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhakti ruchyate. Or as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, naham vipro nacharana patir napi vaishyo na shudro naham varni naham varni naham varni na grahapatir na vanasto yatirva kintu proden nikila paramananda purnamrita abdhair gopi bhartuf pada kamalayor dasa dasanu dasa. That is our ultimate designation. And in other places we have some designation. And devotees should also recognize the need for such designations in service of Krishna. If you are driving a car, you are a driver. That is a designation. You have to know that you are a driver so that you understand what to do as a driver. You have to recognize that in service of Krishna. And so in this way there are designations that we have to accept. Okay, I'm cooking, so I'm a cook. So what should a cook do? What should a pujari do? But not that we take it out of that service. I am pujari, therefore everybody should fall at my feet, Not that kind of designation. The designation is applicable only in the service of the Supreme Lord. But when it spills over, there's problems. The Sanat Kumāras had their childlike mentality, which was very helpful in the material world where there is full of sex desire. But in Vaikuntha, there is no sex desire. You don't have to worry about that. You have to be childlike. But when they had that, when they got stopped, immediately they became angry. And then they cursed. Then you can see in text 28, just the verse before this, the two doormen were garlanded with fresh flowers which attracted intoxicated bees, and which were placed around their necks and between their four blue arms. From their arched eyebrows discontented nostrils and reddish eyes, they appeared somewhat agitated. So the doormen were also agitated. When this whole pastime happens, they were also agitated. And because of their agitation, they also did a mistake. They committed a mistake here by stopping the Sanat Kumāras. It's a complicated pastime. But there's so many lessons that we can learn. Just the doormen, when they were agitated, they didn't realize, hey, we're stopping 4 brahmanas, these 4 Sanat Kumāras. They are, you see, as devotees of Lord Vishnu, they are fully aware of the situation of the Sanat Kumāras, their capability, their ability to curse. He's aware. It's not that they didn't know. They were not fools. But when you are agitated, what happens? You just become bewildered. You don't think about it. You don't think about it. You're agitated, your intelligence goes out of the window, the ability to process, the ability to think. A state of agitation is it's very dangerous in Krishna consciousness. And which is why, for instance, and what is agitation? Agitation means a flurry of emotions that are just racing through our mind and our body. One of the symptoms of being agitated is that you will feel your body is also becoming hot. The whole sense, you start feeling hot. And then the air around you turns tense. It's so dramatic how everything, is just, your body heat increases, your mind increases, everything, your sight starts to become sharp. And the air starts to become tense. Everybody in the room is starting, muscles start to tighten up. Everybody's like, ooh, it's like, So, this is, look, we spoke about the fact that they were humiliated. That's in text 31. The tension between the doormen and the Sanat Kumāras was so visible that even the denizens flying above in the Vaikuntha plains realize, oh, looks, this tense situation. They feel it. They feel the energy. It's like the vibes are going all the way up there. Because this is in text 28. They are agitated. And then now the childlike people become agitated. It's like, there's a child and then there's a parent or some senior person and they're stopping. The parent is angry and the child is also getting angry. And then everybody in the house stops because a big commotion is about to start. And so that's exactly what's going on here. And so because of them being agitated, they also couldn't think. This is what happens when you become agitated, and it's just the perfect recipe for offense. It's just the perfect, the perfect chemical reaction for offense to happen. Both sides are agitated. That's it. Now, so both sides are agitated, and boom, an offense is committed. And you can see here that the Kumāras, they cursed, but in one sense, they also committed an offense because they cursed someone who's faultless. Just like Shringi, the son of who? I forgot his name. Shringi's father, anyways. Shamika. Shringi, the son of Shamika Rishi, he cursed Parikshit unnecessarily. Parikshit accepted that curse. So the doormen of Vaikuntha, they also accepted the curse. Now, the Sanat Kumāras didn't get a reaction for that. Neither did actually the residents of Vaikuntha. The doormen also didn't get actually a reaction. Why? Because ultimately, and we'll get to that Krishna admits at the end of this pastime that this was all orchestrated by him. And because it was orchestrated by Krishna, nobody actually gets any material reaction. It's all just to happen, a pastime that has to happen, where Krishna can now put this in the Srimad Bhagavatam so that we can learn something, and he can go and have a good fight with Jai and Vijay, who will come down as Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha, and Ravana and Kumbhakarna, and Shishupal, Dantavakra, and also Jagai and Madai. So this just pastime of the Supreme Lord. But here you can see they are agitated. Now, because the doormen, sorry, let me go back to the verse that we are discussing today. So, yeah, because the doormen were humble, they immediately knew how to cool down the situation. This is extremely important to understand. And how did they know that they had to cool down the situation? Because they immediately understood the gravity of the situation. Those who are mindless, those who continue to remain agitated, you will not understand the gravity of the situation. And how do they? First, you can see, first here, they understood the gravity. If you look at the way the verse goes, teṣām ubhāv avadhārya ghoram. The difference between being agitated and not agitated is what? Avadhārya. What is avadhārya? Understanding. There is no understanding when you are agitated, there is understanding when you are not agitated. Without that understanding, humility is artificial. Humility is artificial. Oh Prabhuji. You can have that, but you know, there is no, if you don't actually understand what is the gravity of the situation, avadhārya ghoram, they understood the terrible nature of what has happened. When a person is able to understand that, that is when they can actually have humility. And what is that understanding? Tam brahma-daṇḍam anivāraṇam astra-pūgaiḥ. That the curse, this is in particular relation to their situation, that their curse cannot be counteracted, which means what? This Vaishnava aparad, this curse that they have done, or this offense that they have committed, and the curse that they have received, this cannot be counteracted. They realize that the gravity, that if I am going to continue in this state, I am going to be destroyed. And so immediately, so they understand that, and they just don't, it's not just, they understand it in full detail. This is understanding. Understanding means to understand the consequences clearly of what will happen. And before, and therefore, in this whole situation, we can see that the Supreme Lord, when he is speaking in the next chapter, he refers to the Sanat Kumāras as brahmanas, and he refers to Jaya and Vijaya as whom? My servants, my devotees. He refers to them as brahmanas, he gives them a designation versus Jaya and Vijaya are my servants. These are my people. And what does Krishna say? He says that in the 16th chapter, he says, I take the dust of their feet. If I take the dust of the Vaishnavas, it's right there in the 16th chapter, it's quite amazing. Now, of course, one takes dust of brahmanas also. But there is a personal sense there that you will find that he uses towards his servants. And why? Sadyo, harer, anucarāv, bibhyatas tat. Those who are followers of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, what do they have? Trinadapi sunichena, tarorapi sahishnuna, amanina amanadena, kirtaniya sada harihi. They are humble. They are willing to admit their fault. This is another difference that you see. The brahmanas only admitted their fault when? After Vishnu admits his fault, then the brahmanas say they are at fault. The doormen, they didn't wait for Krishna to say anything. Before Krishna appears, they try their best to rectify the situation of their own accord. Why? Because they are humble. They are humble. They want to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They realize their danger and they accept that humility. They take that humility, and then tat-pāda-grahau, apatatām, ati-kātareṇa. These are eternal servants. They grasp the feet of from their perspective, mortal souls in the material world. They grasped, they fell down and they grasped pāda-grahau. It's not just offering obeisances. They didn't touch the feet, they went and grabbed their feet. So, that level of humility, that is their actual nature. From this we can understand that their action of being agitated and all of this is an anomaly. It's an anomaly. It is something that generally is not part of their nature. Otherwise, how can they do this? The anomaly cannot be the humility. The anomaly has to be their agitation. Therefore, they are pure devotees. And that is a sign of someone who is becoming sincere, who is becoming purified, that his anarthas are more of an anomaly than his actual nature. As one is in Krishna consciousness, here and there. Gradually it's supposed to increase. So, then at some point, you may be disturbed, may become mental, but hope it should start becoming an anomaly, and Vaishnava qualities. Yasyasti bhaktir bhagavatya kinchana sarvai gunais tattva samasate suraha. That all the good qualities of the demigods become manifest. They become manifest means it's a process. That means that becomes the norm and the material qualities becomes the anomaly. So in the case of the Vaikuntavasis, Jaya and Vijay, their agitation is an anomaly. But they are Vaikuntavasis. So it is not that they had some anartha that came occasionally. No, that is direct arrangement of the Supreme Lord. It may seem like an anartha. It may seem like even Vaikuntavasis like Jaya and Vijay can become agitated. No, it is completely the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that's how by understanding this pastime we can see this is completely orchestrated by the Supreme Lord. And even the Sanat Kumāras cursing is very unusual. When Brahma got angry at them, they didn't get angry again. When their own father got angry, they didn't get angry at him. But Jaya and Vijay, Vaikuntavasis, they are coming to see Vishnu and they curse the servants of Vishnu. It's just completely like not what you expect of someone who is the mind-born son of Brahma, the extremely intelligent personalities in this world. Not such a simple, somewhat foolish action. They act like kids, literally. They acted like kids. Arrangement of Supreme Lord. Certainly an arrangement of the Supreme Lord. So, that the Lord, if we go to chapter 16, text 13, another beautiful verse. Text 12, That the Lord says, these servants of mine have transgressed against you, not knowing the mind of their master. I shall therefore deem it a favor done to me if you order that although reaping the fruit of their transgression, they may return to my presence soon, and the time of their exile of my abode may expire before long. So here the Supreme Lord makes a personal appeal. How can the Sanat Kumāras refuse? They cannot refuse. So this is what happens when someone is humble. The Supreme Lord intervenes. He takes charge. He takes charge. He takes it within his hands. It's such an amazing process. That the Supreme Lord himself, he is anxious to get his servants back. Why? His servants are humble. Dinere adik doya kore Bhagavan, kulin pandit dhanira bhara abhiman. Dinere adik doya kore Bhagavan. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says in the pastime where Sanatan Goswami is about to jump under a cart and give up his life. There, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu states this verse, Dinere adik doya kore Bhagavan, that Supreme Personality of Godhead is very merciful to the meek and humble. Those who are meek and humble, he is very favorable towards them. Dinere adik doya kore Bhagavan. Kulin pandit dhanira bada abhiman. That those who think that Kulin, they are born in a great family, great parentage, caste, whatever that may be, lineage. Kulin pandit, they are great scholars. Dhanira, one who is very wealthy, very opulent. Bada Abhima, they are very puffed up all the time. So those who become puffed up like this, they don't get the mercy of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord, He says it here, I shall deem it a favor done to me. A favor done to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. How can you refuse? You dare refuse such a thing? You can't. But Supreme Lord will make such kind of things. And Prabhupada's purport here is absolutely amazing. You can see, Prabhupada says, from this statement we can understand how anxious the Lord is to get His servitor back to Vaikuntha. This incident therefore proves that those who have once entered a Vaikuntha planet can never fall down. So Prabhupada is stating that. So we can understand it like this. That a devotee, when he goes to the spiritual planet, he has acquired the qualities of, mainly of humility. And when he acquires this quality, and here Jaya and Vijay never gave up their devotional attitude. In fact, they begged the Sanat Kumāras that this is the one thing that we are asking you. You send us anywhere, let us not forget the Supreme Lord. They want to remain His devotees. They always want to think of Him. So, therefore, a devotee is always protected. And this is one interesting thing that Prabhupada is saying, that basically, even if a devotee commits a mistake and it may seem that apparently he is left the association of the Supreme Lord never forgets him because he is a devotee. And as long as he maintains his devotional attitude, he is protected. And so from this we can also understand that we are nothing against Maya. We can fall down anytime. We can fall down the next second, we can fall down any minute, tomorrow, day after, any minute we can fall down. How are we protected? If we are humble, we are protected. It's a very, very important lesson here. It's an amazing pastime. And that's the difference that you see between the material and the spiritual world. In the material world, no one will accept their fault. It's his problem, it's his mistake, it's their problem, it's their mistake. Same incident, 5 people went through the same incident, they all come together, they won't agree with each other. What was actually at problem, who was actually at fault, what was actually the fault, nobody will agree. It was them, it was this, it was because of that, it was because of this. But what happens in Vaikuntha? The exact opposite. Everybody says it's my fault. The doormen say it's their fault. Sanat Kumāras say that's their fault. Even Sanat Kumāras who come from the material world, they are influenced by, they are the last ones to say it. They are the last ones to say it. But why do they say it? Because they are influenced by the association of Narayana and his servants. Then even they act like, they become devotees and they act. That's also stated. That tasyāravinda nayanasya padāravinda kinjalka mishra tulasi makaranda vayuhu antargata swavivarena chakara teṣām shangshobam akshara dushām api chitta tanvoho. That when the tasyāravinda nayanasya padāravinda, that when the dust of the personality who has beautiful lotus eyes, that dust which was mixed with the kinjalka mishra tulasi makaranda vayuhu, which was mixed with the fragrance of the tulasi buds that are found on the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, when that fragrance, when that aroma antargata swavivarena chakara teṣām, when it entered their nostrils, antargata swavivarena, when it entered the nostrils of the Sanat Kumāras, chakara teṣām, it immediately astounded them. Shangshobam akshara dushām api chitta tanvoho, their minds which were attached to the impersonal Brahman, akshara dushām. Akshara jusha means that which cannot be described in words, which refers to the impersonal Brahman. Akshara jushām api chitta tanvoho, their mind, their consciousness became transformed because they became devotees. So, of course, they were always devotees. This is the pastime of them playing the role of Brahmavadis. So, they became influenced and they also admitted their fault. This is Vaishnava association. So when a Vaishnava is humble, he doesn't have to worry. Krishna takes charge. And Krishna personally asks a favor, and he is seated in everyone's heart. He transforms the heart of even the opposite person. And if he doesn't also, the devotee is protected, because Krishna is God. Because Krishna considers him to be belonging to him. So, ultimately, going to back to text 16 of chapter 16, where the sages admit text 25. Going to text 25, where the sages admit that it's their fault. Srila Prabhupada in the purport, he says that it is said that anyone who has implicit faith in the service of the Lord, or who actually engages in transcendental loving service, has all the good qualities of the demigods. Therefore, a devotee cannot be at fault. If sometimes it is found that he is in error by accident or by some temporary arrangement, that should not be taken very seriously. The cursing of Jaya and Vijay is here repented. Now the Kumāras are thinking in terms of their position in the modes of passion and ignorance, and they are prepared to accept any kind of punishment from the Lord. But here, even though it said that a devotee cannot be at fault, and that even if there is an error by some accident or temporary arrangement, that should not be taken very seriously, that should apply to others who are devotees. Not that we consider ourselves a devotee and say that nobody else should take my fault or my error anything seriously. That was not the attitude of Jaya and Vijay. They took it very seriously. And the word that Srila Prabhupada used in the purport is terrified. One has to be terrified of committing offenses. And one will be terrified if one has some intelligence and one can understand. But if one is like an animal, then one is not terrified. The goat is standing in front of the chopping block and seeing that the goats in front of it are getting chopped, and it's not terrified. But that's because it's dumb. And so those who are dumb, they are not terrified. They don't understand, because they are too agitated by material desires. And therefore they cannot understand. One has a cool head, one is not agitated, then one can understand. And therefore it's very important to develop understanding. Therefore, we should try. Yes, I'm chanting Hare Krishna, I don't need to pay attention in the Bhagavatam class, or I don't need to read Prabhupada's books, or no, we have to read. We have to try to understand these things. The more we understand, the more we are less likely to be agitated. So, So ultimately in text 26, Krishna confirms in chapter 16, text 26, the Lord replied, "O Brahmanas, know that the punishment you inflicted upon them was originally ordained by me, and therefore they will fall to a birth in a demoniac family. But they will be firmly united with me in thought through mental concentration, intensified by anger, and they will return to my presence shortly." Why does the Supreme Lord say this? Is because these Sanat Kumāras, they actually admit that we are very bewildered by your talk. Because they say we can't, they heard everything that the Supreme Lord is saying, and Supreme Lord is saying now it's his fault. And they say, we can't understand this. It's like we hearing this very nicely. We can't because imagine how shocked they are. They cursed. They're not supposed to be doing that. Why? Because you don't do that. Why did Vishwamitra lose all his power of penance? Because he went ahead and cursed. He cursed Ramba. He enjoyed with who? He enjoyed with Ramba and cursed Menaka? He enjoyed with Menaka and cursed Ramba. So in both cases he lost the benefit of his penances. And they know all of these things. They have taken all this effort. And they curse the Vaikuntha-vasis? Or anybody, they go and curse them. They are very embarrassed. They are surprised that the Vaikuntha-vasis acted like this, and the Vaikuntha-vasis are grasping their feet. That's another shock. Then the biggest shock is that Krishna is coming and says, this is all my fault. What is going on? So then finally Supreme Lord, okay, actually the curse that you all said was actually me. So don't worry, it was all me. I'm Supreme Lord and this is what I do. So, and so, yeah, it's all my pastime. So everybody now can go about their business because I've done whatever I wanted to do. It's like, so the Supreme Lord is saying, because otherwise it's just everybody is completely confused, bewildered. So that's how we understand this. Actually, a pastime of the Supreme Lord, wonderful pastime. So I'll stop here. Any questions or comments? Yes, just to give me a
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you for the very thorough and very well-read class. I wanted to ask something that sometimes confuses me or bewilders me is sometimes I see very senior devotees and sometimes they have like an anomaly like you're talking about where maybe they lash out at another devotee or there's a disagreement or something. And I was wondering, I guess this might be two-parted, but does Krishna sometimes just stir things up among devotees, even, present day? And then also, should I view it as an anomaly, or how do I not get disturbed when I see disagreements between the
answer to your
devotees?
first question, does Krishna do it up to the present day? Yes. Why not? Krishna can. And does do some things. Srila Prabhupada himself attributed certain things that happened to the movement as arrangement of Krishna. Sometimes it so happens that devotees may disagree, only to go and start two separate, different, very successful projects in Krishna consciousness, which wouldn't have happened if they were together. And later, you'll see that those Vaishnavas, they come back together, they don't have any personal... Actually, the thing is, how do you know whether it's arrangement of Krishna or not? You have to know if one is astute enough, which takes maturity and purity in devotional service, to observe if the personalities are acting out of selfish desire or not. And it's not very easy to understand that. But when they are not acting out of selfish desire, and both of them have just a disagreement out of a very strong desire to serve the Supreme Lord in two different ways, Srila Prabhupada said that is arrangement of Krishna, and that such a disagreement is transcendental. But where is it not an anomaly? When it becomes personal. When it becomes personal. When it becomes personal and offenses are traded, and then it's a big problem. It's a big issue. That they may criticize each other, but that neither... And yes, at the moment, in the heat of things, things may be there, but we understand this is an anomaly because neither Jai Vijay nor the Kumāras took anything personal, actually. Here in the end, you see, the agitation was there, the offenses, nothing was personal. Therefore, actually, there was no reaction because they never took anything personal. So that's a very important thing to understand. When it becomes personal, when they start maintaining grudges, all this maintaining grudges, Vaishnavas never maintain grudges. There's no grudges. When their grudges are maintained, whoever didn't maintain a grudge, for him, that was an anomaly. Somehow put through that situation, he went put through the ringer. One devotee was telling me that a particular situation, which I am well aware of, was a complete anomaly of their character. The way they behaved, they were very sincere devotees. They were placed in a situation among another set of devotees, and they acted in such a it was just shocking that why would you act in such a very mundane way, like literally racist, practically, but they're exalted devotees, really exalted people, very dedicated, this, that. There's just some period where they brought up, and then everybody else's anarthas came out. It was really powerful. And it was a little explosion. And anyways, at the end of it, this devotee very humble. They were telling me that, I was just going, I just realized after the whole thing was over, and now, they're back to their normal, very Krishna conscious, renounced situation, so humble, such a humble devotee, and I mean their behavior was shocking to everyone, but in retrospect it played a purpose. It played a purpose in bringing out anarthas of other people who were involved, whose thing came out and they were given a chance or whatever. So in this case, one particular person was an anomaly, but the others were not an anomaly. Their anarthas were coming on full blown, exhibition of it. But this person was an anomaly, and they are very embarrassed about it. And how do we know it was an anomaly? They talk openly about it without. They are so above the conception of thinking themselves to be prideful, and things like that. That to somebody who is extremely junior like myself, they come and just talk about it as being influenced by some astrological planet, some period, which is not, because their Krishna conscious nature is not. They are not Krishna conscious because some planets have aligned, But they take it like that because they think of themselves as conditioned souls. And it was very powerful. And now they live in the Dham, and they're Dhamvasis, and rendering such amazing service. Definitely, it's just like, I was looking at them, I was like, gosh, collect the dust of the lotus feet, going back home, back to Godhead, fixed up devotees. But this one period is just amazing, the way they were acting. It's complete anomaly to what they were before and what they are after, and this in between is like, what are you? It's so you have to see. So how do you understand when two devotees are doing well? First recommendation is that stay out of it. Has nothing to do with you. Stay out of it. That's the recommendation. Especially it's given that when one's guru has disagreements with one's guru's god brothers, then the disciples stay out of it. It's there. It's one of the instructions. So it also refers to sometimes senior devotees. Specifically it said in Guru, and you should not take sides. So if it's not related to you, now if it's related to you, then you are also tested. So anything else? Yes, I'll keep it.
Hare Krishna. So I just have a question about another pastime that's kind of similar, but how would you kind of explain the pastime with Ambarish Maharaj and Devarsha Muni? Because Devarsha Muni was a Brahmin, he came, and Vishnu also got involved in that situation, but it seems like, at least in that situation, Vishnu was kind of more on the side of Devarsha Muni and didn't really say like, oh, Devarsha Muni, you're okay.
There wasn't any anomaly in the character and behavior of Ambarish Maharaj. In the sense, he always maintained his very, Vaishnav character and behavior. He never transgressed it. He never before the curse, after the curse, in no way. An anomaly is seen when somebody who is not generally expected to behave in a certain way, behaves in a certain way. But there, Durvasa getting angry, who's surprised by that? And at the same time, Ambarish Maharaj's character and behavior is glorious, but at the same time, that is what is expected of a Vaishnava like him. On the other hand, you take Parikshit Maharaj's incident, him getting agitated, asking a yogi who is meditating in his cottage for water, and when that yogi doesn't respond, to take a dead snake and put it on top of his shoulder. What? Such a glorious king, this grandson of the Pandavas, is going to do something as silly as that? It looks very silly, right?
Yeah.
Somebody is sleeping in the room, you go and, hey, I want some water. You pick up a dead cockroach and put it on there. It's like, you would think, is this devotee crazy or like what? See, you don't expect such a kind of like shocking behavior, you know. But say Ravana running after Sita, who's surprised after that? You know, it's not an anomaly.
So would you say also too that, just to kind of add on to that, that like in Krishna consciousness, different devotees, like if they have attachments previously or something and act out on that, it's maybe not as bad as like someone who's senior and maybe develops like a new attachment or something, if that kind of makes sense? So pretty much like everybody has like their different conditions and like attachments. Like
You mean the samskaras?
yeah,
Yeah.
but like maybe like an individual is like highly exalted, but then do something like abominable that's like out of his character completely. You know, like let's someone before Krishna consciousness, like they drank, but then someone never did those things, but then come to Krishna consciousness and then engages in those
Yeah,
things.
that's definitely more lamentable.
Yeah.
Because as Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains in Madhurya Kadambini, there are anarthas that come out of the execution. Not out of the execution, but rather they come up during the execution of devotional service, because when devotional practice, devotional service, Krishna, he puts devotees in comfortable situations, or they may take up some responsibility. In that sense, they've got a position and this and that which they never had before, and then they become attached to it, and then they, that becomes an anartha that they've sort of developed. And so Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains about all of this in detail in Madhurya Kadambini. He says, this is a Sanskrit word he uses, bhaktyutpadyate something like that. Kyucho, you had something?
Yeah. I'm just a little confused about the when the sampradaya of the Kumāras, when it begins, because it seems like this pastime culminates in them more or less becoming Vaishnavas, where before they were Brahmavadis, they appreciated the form of Lord Vishnu, but in a wrong way. So when does their sampradaya begin? Because it's a Vaishnav sampradaya.
I don't know. We have to ask their sampradaya about that. They would have their own stories. The thing is, the Kumāra sampradaya and the Rudra sampradaya these days are not very strong. Rather, compared to the Madhva and the Sri Vaishnava sampradaya. The Madhva is the Brahma sampradaya, and then the Sri Vaishnava is Sri, which comes from Lakshmi. Even the Rudra sampradaya is, the Sanat Kumāra sampradaya is what is the current Pushti Marg, I think. Is it Pushti Marg or is it the Rudra? One of them. It's one of them. The Vallabha sampradaya, the Havelis, the Vallabhacharya, they are one of them. I'm inclined to say that they come under the line of the Sanat Kumāras. So one would have to ask them. There are actually the Nimbarkas. The Nimbarkas are a Sampradaya temple in Boston. They're still around. So one would have to kind of ask them about it. I'm not aware. Yeah. And even then, even if that may be the case, it is unlikely that they would say, I wouldn't be surprised if they either they explain this pastime in a completely different way because they respect their acharya, or they even claim that their sampradaya has begun even before this. All kinds of amazing things are found, but I don't know.
It's quite possible that it starts from the Hamsa avatar, because we see in the 11th canto of the Bible.
Yeah, that's possible.
Because that's when they
ask,
they ask who are you? They know who are you, and then Hamsa avatar starts to play with their minds. It's really crazy. But one thing which really blew my mind in the 16th chapter of the 3rd canto is Lord Vishnu, not only he comes and apologizes, he offers one of his limb. Can I cut off my hand and give it to you as a like that, and the Kumāras are completely bewildered. They're thinking, what? Because when they see the beauty of Narayana, they're already shocked. And when they hear him speak, they're even more shocked. And then he's offering to cut off his hand and give it to them.
There's so many emotions that are going on over there. You see, Bhagavatam also says they just like hearing the voice of the Supreme Lord.
Yeah.
Just the voice of the Supreme. They've got the voice, the Tulasi has entered their nostrils, the giant Vijay are at their feet. The Supreme Lord is asking forgiveness, saying they're going to cut off their limb. He's going to cut off his limb and offer it to them. They're in shock. I mean, it's just, what a scene,
Them grabbing with the 4 hands. They have 4 hands.
Yeah, 4 hands. Yeah, it's an interesting.
They're grabbing.
They think about it, 4 hands. Yeah.
It's crazy.
You can think, they grab with 4 hands. If you have to enact a drama, you have these 4 Kumāras holding 4 hands, all 4 hands, all the weapons fly in all 5 directions. What's the use of all these weapons? You grasp all the 4 feet. 4 hands, you grasp the feet, and they're little children, right? So their feet are little small, little. You have 4 hands going at their feet. Can you imagine? But another way is there are 4 of them and there are 2 of them.
Yeah, so 8 to 2. Yeah, they get all.
Figure it out how to do it. Yeah, amazing.
But yeah, the cutting off the hand part, I think, really blew their mind when he said that.
Janardhan Krishna.
I had a question overall about the pastime. At the end of the 16th chapter, it said that this departure from Vaikuntha was foretold by Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. She was very angry because when she left my abode and then returned, you stopped her at the gate while I was sleeping. So is this here implying that the giant Vijay, previously they committed like a smaller kind of
seems like it
offense?
Yeah. Again, that's also it's also pastime. I mean, because if you think about it, they are in dasya rasa, and dasya rasa means how can you stop Lakshmi? She is the head of the dasya rasa there, right? I mean, who's more dasya than Lakshmi ji? Nobody. In Vaikuntha, nobody. She is the epitome of dasya rasa in Vaikuntha. Of course, she is in Madhurya in the dasya, but with Madhurya also. But that's only for Lakshmi in Vaikuntha. But the feeling is that of a dasya, and so how can the servant stop her? So just because this is security, you hire security, and husband and wife, they are there. Wife, husband is sleeping, and the security leaves the wife stranded in the street. Can you imagine? You won't even do it here in this material world. Any karmi security person will not even do something like that. The doorkeepers of Jaya and Vijay are going to do that. I mean, it's pastime. So you have to enact. So this Supreme Lord is, and you can just see, just like we just discussed, about how the whole situation is so dramatic. Krishna likes this, he likes all this kind of drama. He creates this huge drama, and it's all kinds of drama, all kinds of, things. And what to do? We worship such a Lord, as Mukundata Prabhu, and what can you do? As Radharani says, speaking through Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, lampat. A lampat. This is in the last verse. Asvishya va pāda-grahāv pinashtumam adarsanan marmahatam karotva yatha tatha va vidadatu lampato. What are you going to do with a lampat? He's a debauchee, a rascal. What can you do with a rascal? He's going to act like a rascal. So what to do? He's our Lord. Can't do. He's completely caught by him. We are surrendered to him. And he'll do this. He'll do this to but his devotees will never leave him. And he will never leave his devotees. It's really intense love between the devotees and Krishna. Very intense. So, okay, all right. Yes.
I have one question. This pastime that you were speaking about today reminded me, because I was speaking with John Krishna Prabhu about it before, I think, Christmas Marathon, this pastime of Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and his son-in-law making offense to Lord Chaitanya when he invited Lord Chaitanya into his home for feeding him, and they made very opulent prasadam for Lord Chaitanya, and his son-in-law was a fault finder, so he was trying his best to keep him out, but even he couldn't, somehow or another he got in and saw Lord Chaitanya taking so much